Hello everybody. Well, thank you so much for coming. It's just great to see so many friends of the course and our wonderful tutors, our visiting speakers, alumni, students, and there's a few lurkers around. And it's just great to see you here for the launch of profwriting.com.
Profwriting.com is a website for emerging and established writers. It works as a support forum. You can upload your own work, critique other people's work, get inside industry information, advice on agents and publishing. And today's the official relaunch, so we're going to try and grab some of the quite high profile guests and get some interviews. Okay, I'm with the head of drama productions for the BBC, this is John York. What are your thoughts on professionalwriting.com and how important are support forums like this for new writers to develop?
I think they're absolutely vital, aren't they? It's it's such a lonely profession, and it seems so hard to get a job at the end of it, that anything that takes some of the mystery out of that, some of the fear out of that, can only be a good thing. And also plus the idea of having your work peer reviewed, I think is brilliant. The BBC will read any unsolicited script. The Writers' Room, which is on the BBC website, is a fantastic forum for new writers, and they will read everything. The chances of an unsolicited script being made are quite low, probably because not much stuff gets made anyway. If you think it's a very small percentage of what's submitted gets sent in. But you send it in. Yeah, an agent helps, but it's not essential for first steps. Okay.
Well, actually brings me to our next question, because you were talking a lot about, TV dramas are in crisis at the moment, and internet drama is the future.
TV drama is having a rough time. It's not falling apart. It will carry on, and online drama will only really have a future when people learn how to make money out of it. But it's a really good forum for new writers to start learning their craft. Because it's very cheap to make as a hobby with your friends, and you create a show. You cast it, you direct it, you edit it, you put it out online and people watch it. That's got to be good. That's got to be exciting.
Okay, I'm with literary agent Mark Lucas. Mark, what are your thoughts on the profwriting.com website, and how important are support forums like this for emerging writers?
I think they're really important. One of the terrible things that's happened in publishing over about the last 20 years is that whereas when I started, an honourable apprenticeship, and a rather public one, was absolutely the order of the day. Nobody expected you to write, Catcher in the Rye first time round. You could write 5 or 6 novels and sell just a few copies more each time, and then suddenly you'd have the breakout. And if you look at some of the really big writers today, not just in particular categories, but Ian Rankin is a really good example. 10 novels, and then bang, he goes into hyperspace. Nowadays, though, because of the pressure from Tesco's, Asda, you name it, wherever, if you don't succeed first time round, you're history. And I think what this opportunity provides is people to have that kind of apprenticeship where they're getting, it's reasonably public, but it's also governable. You're not too vulnerable. You can go inside the chat room and not feel that you're being sniped at from complete strangers who have other axes to grind. I think it's a great idea.
I know you've been in the business a long time, but do you ever read unsolicited manuscripts? How often do you read something that's just sent in and put on your desk?
I've never ever lost my hope that I'm going to discover an absolute work of genius that nobody has warned me about, and that's the sort of fantasy that drives us all. Sadly, it happens once, literally in a blue moon.
Okay, I'm with Gareth May, who's an MA Prof Writing graduate who's just had his first book published, 150 Things Every Man Should Know. What's the current Prof Writers, with the current Prof Writers in mind, how long was the process of writing to actually getting published? Can you go through that a little bit?
Do you mean from getting commissioned or from the actual start of the idea?
Yeah,
well, from getting commissioned, you get given a deadline. So it's basically, I got commissioned mine in August the year before last, and my deadline was for the end of February. So what's that, about 7 months, something like that. So you've got to sort of, I learned a lot from my experience because I was signed when I was 26, so I'm 28 now, so I was relatively young, really, an author as it were. And I sort of went around the wrong way. I was quite arrogant, and I thought, well, I work like this, so what I'll do is I did all the research, then I went through all the research, and then I wrote all the stuff, and then I edited. Well, you can't really work like that. It's quite it doesn't end up with the product that you want it to be, really. You want to communicate a lot more with the editor. So I sort of did it in an isolated way, but now what I've learned is you need to use the infrastructure around you. And my editor, Rose, the next time if I work with her again, which I hope to, then I'll work a lot closely with her. With this, I think it's the beginning of a journey, and I think they set you up for blog, they set you up for website, they teach you the importance of online content, and the Prof Writing site is just a way of pulling you back in, as well as attracting new writers and writers that are just what you'd call sort of recreational writers, I suppose, for want of a better phrase.
Okay, I'm with Paul Dodgson, who is an actor, musician. He's been a writer on EastEnders, he's a radio producer, he's a chameleon, but radio producer and writer is the vessel which I know you through. What do you think of profwriting.com, and what sort of writers will benefit from joining the site and using the site?
Well, I think most obviously fiction writers, but I mean, I think what was clear looking at the site just now is that it will be a great place for script writers to go as well. And I think what will happen is that once you've got a script writer there and you have another one that joins the site and they start to critique each other's work, then it's going to build from that. So I'd like to think that every genre of writing will find its place on the site. What there isn't now is time to develop writers, and again, which is why sites like this are so important, because they allow space for writers to develop below the horizon, so that by the time the work does get to an agent, it's in a much, much better state.
Why is it so important for an emerging writer today to have a strong online presence?
Well, it's your shop window. And I mean, to give you an example, just a couple of months ago I was commissioned to make some programmes for the BBC, and I wanted to find writers that were new to radio. And the first thing I did was Google some names that I'd been suggested. I found they had a strong online presence. I was able to look at their work immediately. I was able to read their blog. I was able to decide who was the sort of writer that was doing the sort of work that I wanted to use, and I was able to offer them a commission.
James, how do you think that profwriting.com can benefit comedy writers and as a forum?
Probably the same way it benefits other writers, I guess, by just getting people to share their material. Because if it just sits there and no one ever sees it, then that's just no good. So it's kind of learning that confidence, I think, to actually share it with other people. And taking criticism as well is just incredibly important, and knowing what to ignore is also important. So just that way, it's going to be helpful, I think.
I mean, who would you ideally pitch to if you thought I've got a great comedy script and I want to pitch it? Who would you go to?
I'd probably go to one of the indies, the independent production companies first, and then see who they want, because they've got the relationship with the broadcasters and they see where they want to take it, basically, and try and build up that relationship with producers is very, very important.
Are unsolicited scripts getting read nowadays or not? Because there's a massive issue with that at the moment.
It's a real catch-22 with script writing, in that you don't tend to get work until you've got an agent, but it's very hard to get an agent if you haven't got any work out there. So to an extent, you just have to plough on your own, get people to read your scripts, and people looking for stuff that will make them laugh. Ultimately, if they read a script that makes them laugh, then that'll get you somewhere. So you just have to sort of be confident or arrogant and just crack on your own for a certain amount of time, and eventually I think you'll get there.
Okay, thanks James, thanks for that.
I'm Susanna Marry at the site's editor. Profwriting.com offers unpublished writers everything they need to become better writers and working writers wherever they are in the world and whatever genre they're working in. So it's packed with resources. We have interviews with authors and advice and tips from our network of industry professionals, including literary agents, publishers, producers, and of course successful authors. There are many online writing courses here in everything from finding inspiration to pitching a screenplay. For just £25, you can dip your toe in the water and try our approach to writing. Peer critiquing forms the backbone of that approach. So here we have a peer review area where you can upload up to 3 chapters of your manuscript for fellow writers to review. We all pick up on the best and point the writers in the right direction, because unlike other peer review sites, we're independent. We're not linked to a particular agent or publisher. If you prefer, you can commission a professional to assess your work by buying a critique of your writing from our network of industry professionals in many fields of writing, from copywriting to comedy scripts. Or you can work with a mentor. We'll pair you with a writer from your genre for 3 months.
and currently we have students working on novels and memoirs. Finally, you might like to enter our award-winning writing competition, Blog. This showcases new short fiction and non-fiction, and it's judged by award-winning authors, editors and agents. There are many ways to join our thriving online community of writers at profwriting.com.